In this panel, we will speak about the type of visa foreigners may apply to in Central America and Panama, its benefits and legal aspects, as well as any restrictions for foreigners regarding these visas in these countries. I'll introduce you.
Países. Les presento a nuestros miembros del panel.
Our interpreter, I believe, has the microphone on and I can listen to her. Mariana, can you help us there? Thank you.
Sorry, just interpreting was unactivated. But...
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. Actually, you reminded me to remind the audience that we have the interpretation services on the lower panel. You can just press on interpretation and choose between English or Spanish as the case may be, or as you prefer. So let me now introduce you to the speakers to this panel. Ricardo Rosa. Ricardo is partner of Sfera Legal, Honduras. Welcome, Ricardo. We have also Andres Cuadra. Andres is partner at Sfera Legal, Nicaragua. Welcome, Andres. And we also have Mr. Alberto Levy, partner at Delco Law from Panama. Wonderful to have you here again, Alberto. So let's get started. I'll begin with the first question. Let's first of all discuss the types of visas that foreigners, digital nomads, investors, and retirees in Central America and Panama have available, and the benefits that such visas grant to these foreign investors, as well as the immigration legal aspects that must be considered by these foreign investors in order to live in our countries. I'll first give the floor to Ricardo to talk about the situation in Honduras and in Guatemala. Ricardo, welcome.
Thank you, Mariana, and greetings to all our audience. Immigration is a complex issue. Normally it takes a lot of paperwork, requirements, and time. But since the COVID-19 pandemic, process has been shortened in Honduras because the government has implemented digital platforms. So most administrative procedures are faster and are done in a quick way, unlike Guatemala, where the process are still paper-based and probably takes a little bit more time. The types of migratory categories in both countries are extremely similar and very easy to complete the documents. So I will go ahead with Honduras first. Honduras has the following immigration categories. We have non-residents, we have residents, and we have special permits of permanence. For the non-residents are normally foreigners who have no intention of staying in Honduras. They're probably just passing by and do not need any requirement. Normally, they are tourists, travelers in transit, special visitors, cross-border workers, international transport crews, and travelers like sports, health, and conventions. Then we have the most important ones, let's say the residents. And these types of residents, we have the rentiers, the pensioners, and the investors. We have a lot of Canadians in Roatan who are rentiers, pensioners, and investors because they look for this special island, their climate, their people, so they could move from the cold of Canada and move to Honduras in Roatan and invest, which is very easily done. For rentiers, it's the only thing you have to produce is a permanent, lawful, and steady income granted abroad, $2,000, $5,000. For pensioners, it's much easier. It's $1,000, $5,000, and it only has to be stably on a monthly basis. And then we have the investors. This one is probably a little bit more complicated to get. The investment is $50,000. And also you can invest in certificates and titles and bonds. What happens with this type of investment? Most Canadians invest on real estate in Roatan, and then they go to the Airbnb platform. And this way they have their house for when Canada is cold and they move to Honduras on these times. And most people like Roatan. And once you have this this complete, it's very easy to cross to Honduras because you don't need any visa. Canadians can move to Honduras without any special visa. And lastly, we have the special permit of permanence. This is specially made for companies because we have migrant workers here, foreigners in commercial activities, foreigners hired as employees by corporations, and entrepreneurs, managers of foreign corporations. Some of the benefits, or the most important benefits on this types of residencies, is that you have exoneration of all import taxes for one time only, introduction of household goods, importation of vehicle for personal or family use, free of all type of import, customs, and sales tax, and the exemption from paying annual income tax in Honduras. So now I'll go ahead with Guatemala. As I said before, it's very similar to Honduras. They have 3 different types of categories. We have tourism, temporary resident, and permanent resident. Tourist is the same as Honduras. They're foreigners who are just passing by or could stay in Guatemala for a maximum of 90 days. Then we have a temporary resident, which has a lot of categories, but they have students, athletes and artists, intellectual researchers and scientists, ministers of worship and religious. And the 2 main important ones over here are the investors that are foreigners who decide to invest in Guatemala, and they cannot stay for more than 5 years or this type of permission, and the migrant workers who also have to do a procedure on the state so they can come to work as a foreign company. And lastly, if you want to be a permanent resident, there's a few categories here that are important. They have to be temporary residents for a period equal to or greater than 5 years, have a year or more of being married or declared partnership with a Guatemalan, be next of kin to a Guatemalan, or be a rentier or pensioner. As I stated before, you can only stay in Guatemala for 90 days. If you wish to stay more, you have to apply for an extension, and the government has to grant it to you before your 90 days end. And if you decide to stay for more time, well, we recommend that you get any of the temporary resident, like migrant workers or investors, which are very popular in Guatemala too. Thank you, Mariana.
No, thank you, Ricardo. So let's give the floor to Andres, and Andres will speak about Nicaragua and El Salvador. Andres.
I apologize, I had the microphone in mute. Thank you, Mariana. I'll start with El Salvador, and then I'll move on to Nicaragua. In the case of El Salvador, foreigners who wish to obtain temporary residence and work in El Salvador must request their residence and authorization to work at the General Directorate of Migration. The temporary residence visa authorization, with authorization to work, it's called the F03. There's also the investor visa, which is called the F49, which is to process business investor or commercial representative visa for categories B and C. To qualify for this visa, prior qualification and investment registration by the Ministry of Economy of El Salvador is required. So you need to be certified by said ministry. According to the investment law of El Salvador, foreigners may request a residency for investors as long as their investment is greater than 4,000 minimum monthly salaries in force in the commerce and services sector in El Salvador. This amount is currently of $365 per month. You may also request investor residence when you have the capacity of legal representative of a national company or foreign branch that has been constituted or established in El Salvador. With regards to Nicaragua, well, Nicaraguan migration laws regulate the entry of foreign individuals. Of course, there are different visa programs for residents and non-residents, right? I'll start with the non-residents. First, we have the tourist visa, which is the common one, and it's up to 90 days. In the case of Canadian citizens do not require this type of visa. They can come into the country without it. However, all travelers, including Canadians, have to pay $10 in cash at the port of entry in Nicaragua. It's called a tourist card, and it allows for mobility in the other Central American countries that are part of the CA4, which is a treaty for mobility within Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua. We also have the transit visas, which is basically for foreigners passing by, visas for athletes, medics, and other representatives for sports events, conventions, and special events in general. We also have visa for artists performing in public shows, and something very similar to what Ricardo said with Honduras. We have visas for migrant workers that are up to a year, and also for transborder workers. Transborder means, you know, people that live like right near to the border, say in Costa Rica in the south, or Honduras up in the north, and they come on a temporary basis to work and then go back to their countries. And well, for foreigners that wish to get a Nicaraguan residency, which is kind of a more relevant topic to the, you know, to these panels, there are common requirements for all of the visa programs, like filling out the application form, presenting the birth certificate, photocopy of the entire passport and such. I will not list them all. I will mention the main requirements for each of the visa program. We have the investor residency, which is also called the capital investor residency, which is for all foreigners who apply for residence in Nicaragua and plan to set up a business with their own capital that will provide them with the necessary means to live without becoming an economic or social burden for Nicaragua. They have to get an investment registration certificate at the Ministry of Incentives for Industry and Commerce. The minimum investment amount in this case for Nicaragua is $30,000 US dollars, that is. Another visa program for residents is the residency with employment contract for foreign citizens that are trained as scientists, professionals, technicians, or specialists who are hired by public or private companies in Nicaragua. They should provide the necessary documents to prove that they have been hired by the company, including but not limited to the actual employment contract that should be duly certified at the Ministry of Labor here in Nicaragua. We also have what's called an institutional residency, which is for foreign citizens that are trained in directive, managerial, operational, or administrative positions that are transferred from abroad to Nicaragua by companies, either national or foreign, that have operations elsewhere other than Nicaragua. And they should also provide documents that prove that they work for the company, along with the most common requirements. I mentioned some of them, as you know, the birth certificate, marriage certificate if they are married, and so on. We have the independent residency, which is kind of like the rentier residency, which is for foreign citizens classified as independent employees that are seeking to obtain temporary residence in Nicaragua. They should have a minimum income of $750 US dollars a month. In addition to the common requirements, an independent resident should register at all the relevant Nicaraguan public institutions, that is the Mercantile Registry, City Hall, and the Tax Authority, and also provide a notarized statement on income sources. As said, the minimum income for this type of visa should be $750 US dollars per month. And then we have the retiree or the pensioner visa. Or residency, I'm sorry. In this case, the foreign citizen must provide a certification of origin by the competent authority of the country where the pension arises, of the annual or monthly amount of the pension or retirement benefit that they get. And this should be no less than $600 US dollars per month. They also need to get their status as retirees or pensioners ratified by the Nicaraguan Tourism Board, which is a fairly simple thing to do once you have all the requirements that are necessary.
Thank you, Andres. Andres, I just have a brief question that maybe might help the audience is, I am guessing that retirement visas and these sort of visas take a little bit longer to obtain, but transit visas or sport event visas and the other ones which seem of a more transitory nature, how long can a person take to obtain a visa of this type?
Okay, it's fairly short period of time to get them. You do have to present your application with the relevant documents, say a few weeks before. So you don't have this. This is kind of like a personal advice from me, since it's better to do things with a little time, to spare. So it should be like around, I would say, 2 months to be in the clear and to not have any issues coming in the country.
Wonderful, wonderful. That is very clear, and it's a very good advice as well. And regarding Honduras and Guatemala, Ricardo, maybe you can, go into the detail about these questions and legal aspects.
Regarding the same one you asked, Andres, Mariana?
Yeah, regarding the same one mentioned today.
Yeah, these types of permits in Honduras take a while. They normally take a year or so to complete regarding the pension and the investors and the rentiers. So, but you can move to Honduras and you can be here once your application is being processed by the state. So basically it takes a year, and for the non-resident, you don't need a visa to come to Honduras. So with your normal passport, you could enter to Honduras without any problems.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you. And let's give the floor to Alberto so that he can discuss Panama and Costa Rica.
Thank you, Mariana. So I'll start with Costa Rica. The most common types of visas for foreign nationals to Costa Rica are we have first the investor visa, for which an investment in the country of at least $150,000 is required. It is important to mention that this investment must subsist during the period the residence is valid and/or renewed. They also have the rentier visa, for which the applicant must demonstrate that he has a permanent, stable, and irrevocable monthly income of at least $2,500 for at least 24 months. Very popular, the work visa, which is provided to foreign nationals coming to work in a corporation with local presence. So these usually apply for all the multinational companies and the technology companies that are moving or open facilities in Costa Rica. This is the way to they usually get the work visas for their foreigners. And the digital nomad visa, which is attractive for people who want to relocate to Costa Rica while performing their job duties for an employer abroad. I believe the pandemic has shown us how possible it is for us to work remotely. So the digital nomad visa, it's a very attractive way for people that want to work from one of the beautiful beaches in Costa Rica. They can do it remotely, and the digital nomad visa, it's kind of like the opening door for them to working in paradise. The main benefits granted by said visas are that the person can reside lawfully in Costa Rica. There is no exit ticket or travel insurance required to enter. They will have access to universal healthcare through the social security benefits. They will have access to local banking and financial operations. They will receive a Costa Rican ID immigration card. They will have the right to obtain a local driver license. And depending on the category, they will have the right to eventually apply for a permanent residency. With regards to the investor visa and the rentier's visa, they have some extra benefits, such as a one-time only tax exemption on the import of household goods. Beneficiaries may import up to 2 vehicles, duty-free for personal or family use, and the amounts declared in the obtention of their immigration status will be exempted from any income tax they need to pay in Costa Rica. They will also receive a 20% transfer tax exemption for real estate acquired within a period of 5 years if the beneficiary is the owner. They will receive an exemption from import taxes for instruments or materials for professional or scientific practices. Foreigners classified as investor, retired residents, or rentier residents will not be automatically considered tax residents. And these two categories will have an expedited processing channel for the application. Now, jumping to Panama, there are also several categories that are very attractive. There's one that is very new. It has just a few months, and it's very attractive. It's called the Qualified Investor Visa. It's locally called the Red Carpet Visa because it's targeted for high net worth individual, and the treatment they will receive during the application is very expedite and very VIP. In order for an investor to apply under this program, they need to make an investment in Panama under different categories. So it could be, if it's a real estate investment, it needs to be an investment of at least $300,000 if it's made until October 2022. And after October 2022, it will require a real estate investment of at least $500,000. It can be an investment in the Panamanian stock market for $500,000 or more for a minimum period of 5 years, or a fixed term deposit in the banking sector for at least $750,000 for a minimum period of 5 years. The main benefit of this category is that it will allow you and it will grant you the permanent residency within 30 days from the moment you submit the application. And this is why it's very popular and why a lot of investors are applying under this program. Another benefit is that there's no need for the investor to come to Panama to submit the application. We can do everything remotely, and he will only come to Panama after the 30 days to take a picture and receive the ID card. We also have the Friendly Nations program. The Friendly Nations used to be very easy to obtain. 2 months ago, they changed the law entirely, and now it's a little more complicated. And basically what it tries to do is to provide some additional benefits on immigration to countries that are friendly countries to Panama. And there's actually a list to the countries to which this regime applies. The US, Canada, and Costa Rica are listed in the country. And the reasons why somebody could apply for this visa is either for work purposes, for an investment, in which case they need to do a real estate investment of at least $200,000, and they can actually use bank financing for that. And this is very attractive. We have seen a lot of Canadian and US residents that are coming to Panama, buying a property of at least $200,000. And as Ricardo was explaining, they escape the Canadian winter and come enjoy the Panamanian summer to one of the beaches, or Boquete, which is also a very attractive place for expats and foreigners. And lastly, the other way is that you could have a fixed bank deposit for at least $200,000 for 3 years, and this will also allow you to apply under the Friendly Nations. The Friendly Nations visa allows you to work in Panama, and also will allow you to eventually, if you want, after 2 years, apply for the permanent residency. And last but not least, we also have the pensioner visa, which is very easy to get. Retirees need to prove that they have an income of at least $1,000 per month, and they need to show that it's stable and that it's irrevocable. And basically with that, they can submit their application, and it's very fast, very easy. This specific visa also grants some additional incentives, such as the benefits on taxes. They have discounts in restaurants, pharmacies, airline tickets, and they have also some more expedite or fast process when they are dealing with public and bank institutions. Thank you, Mariana.
No, thank you, Alberto. I have a question regarding the red carpet visa. I think it's called. What made the government to increase the threshold in October 2022 from $300,000 to a $500,000 investment?
So this law it's quite new. My personal opinion and from what I have discussed with some governmental officials is that they wanted there's Panama has always had a very big real estate economy and sector. That said, there's still a lot of opportunities. There has been so much construction that there are a lot of empty offices or empty houses. So I believe this is a way of promoting the real estate investment and lowering the threshold initially, so as for people to take advantage of the initial months of the law, and eventually they will raise the threshold and have it at the same rate than the stock market investment. So mainly it's to promote and give kind of like an extra push on the real estate market.
Agreed. Thank you. Thank you very much for your answer. And regarding restrictions, are there any immigration restrictions for foreigners in Central America and Panama? I'll give the floor to Alberto, and he can refer to Panama and Costa Rica.
Sure. Let's start with Costa Rica first. In Costa Rica, foreign nationals have the same civil rights and obligations than any Costa Rican citizen. But in addition, foreigners must notify about any change of domicile. Whenever they are entering and exit, they need to enter and exit by authorized immigration points and with a valid document. They need to carry their identification at all moments. They need to renew their status as required by each immigration category, and they need to keep their social security obligations compliant. In addition to that, and I believe this applies to almost every country in Central America, foreign nationals are not allowed to participate in any political endeavor or be elected, as members of the politics. With regards to Panama, it's overall very similar to Costa Rica. There are no legal restrictions for foreigners to do business in Panama. Also, there are no restrictions on foreigners to own shares in local companies or legal entities. However, there are certain industries where the participation of non-resident investment is limited, such as telecommunication, public services, mining, which I must say that in mining, the biggest investment in mining is from a Canadian company, which is actually the biggest foreign investment Panama has since its inception, and probably they will open a lot of room for other foreign investments, and also retail trade with certain exemptions. In addition, foreigners in Panama cannot own real property within 10 kilometers of the land borders.
Thank you, Alberto.
Thank you, Mariana.
Let's give the floor to Ricardo. Ricardo, can you provide further insight regarding this?
Yes, well, let's speak about Honduras and Guatemala again. The most relevant restriction right now is due to COVID-19. To enter to Guatemala, Honduras, you must, the port of entry, present a negative PCR COVID test 72 hours prior to entering to a country, or be fully vaccinated. So if you comply with these two requirements, well, you can enter both countries. In Honduras, we have a principle of equal treatment to foreigners. This means that foreigners enjoy the same civil rights as Honduras, with restrictions of public order, security, interest, and social convenience. Also, foreigners can own stock in companies in Honduras, and they have to pay the same taxes as Hondurans would pay. As far as restrictions go, non-resident foreigners may not perform paid work if they don't have that kind of visa. No foreigners may hold two or more migratory categories at the same time. You can have one and then change it to another one, but you cannot have both at the same time. You need to lose one of them. Foreigners may not form part as country political activities, as Alberto said, and foreigners may not have claims or sues to the for compensations to the state, except as a Hondurans would. So they cannot sue the state for something that they could sue the state in their own country. Now going to Guatemala, the only restrictions that are the most important are that labor aspects. They have to have a special visa to work in Guatemala, and they also have to pay the same taxes as Guatemalans because their taxes are territorial and not, they won't apply for their country's taxes. So these are the main issues on restrictions on foreigners in Honduras and Guatemala. Thank you, Mariana.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. And I'll give the floor to Andres. And Andres, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I will start first with El Salvador and then Nicaragua. There are a lot of similarities with what Ricardo and Alberto exposed about the respective countries. In El Salvador, specifically in these times of pandemic, there are no restrictions for foreigners to enter the country other than presenting a complete vaccination chart card and a negative COVID-19 test. This also applies for Nicaragua. With regards to immigration matters in El Salvador, nationalities that are considered category A, which are USA citizens, Canadian citizens, and most European nationalities, as well as all Central American nationalities, do not need any type of permission to enter the country. Well, the nationalities that are not under category A must process a prior either tourist visa or other type of visa program in order to enter El Salvador. In Nicaragua, it's the same with regards to presenting a negative COVID-19 test. And you should also leave a contact number for the national health authorities in case there is any need for monitoring. And something that is very similar to what Ricardo said is that although the Nicaraguan law establishes that any foreign person in Nicaraguan soil has the same rights as any Nicaraguan national, there are a few exceptions related to political matters, such as not being able to run for public office, work in public institutions, or even voting in government elections in general. And also, there are some other restrictions with regard to land. For example, getting or being granted a concession for beach properties that are state-owned. Foreigners can get that concession granted, but they have to already reside in Nicaragua. They already have to have their residence approved, right? And also something very similar to what Alberto said with regards to Panama is that no foreign citizen has the possibility to acquire land that's within a 10-kilometer band or space from any of the borders, say in the southwest Costa Rica or even in the north with Honduras. Thank you, Mariana.
No, thank you, Andres. And before we close off this panel, we have a couple of questions from the audience. And are there any regional agreements that consider or mention migration issues in Central America?
Yes, Mariana. There is an agreement. It's only limited to El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. It's CEA4. It means that we have free mobility between these countries, and we don't need any visa or any document, just your ID. You could cross borders with any problem.
Yeah, just to add to that a little, as I mentioned before, there is for tourists or foreigners that don't require a visa to come into Nicaragua, you do have to buy or pay a $10 tourist card. This tourist card allows you to travel to other CA4 countries. So it's like your payment for entrance to, you know, the CA4 countries. And as Ricardo mentioned, it's the four Salvador, Nicaragua, Guatemala, and Honduras.
Just commenting on what Andres just said, that's probably just a requirement for Nicaragua. But as if you enter Honduras, you don't need this document. You could travel with your passport, because your passport will have a document that said you entered through a legal port of entry in Nicaragua, and then you could circulate around CA4.
Thanks to both of you. And this relates to another question we have from our audience, which is there free passage of people between the countries of Central America? Right, so I'm guessing your answer will be yes, but not for Costa Rica.
Yes, not for Costa Rica. Costa Rica, I understand, asked for Nicaraguans a special visa. For the rest of the countries, we could visit Costa Rica without any visa. Andres, could you tell us if you need a visa to visit Costa Rica?
Yes, Nicaraguans need a visa. There's two ways. Either you apply for a visa at the Costa Rican consulate, or if you have an American visa already granted to you, then you can use that one to enter Costa Rica. I guess, you know, they use that as a filter, you know, and I think it's a good filter to have. But yes, answering Ricardo's question, you as a Nicaraguan, you need a visa to enter Costa Rica. I think it's a matter of reciprocity, and it has to do with immigration matters from Nicaragua to Costa Rica mainly.
With regards to Panama, Mariana, there's no need for visa from any other of the Central American countries. However, do you need to enter from a valley entry point, and you need to show your passport and comply with the immigration requirements and aspects as any other country, but there's no requirement for visa for any other country of Central America.
Okay, wonderful. That is very clear. And we have another question from the audience, which is,
Mariana, I just want to comment on Panama. If you want to go to Panama, you need the yellow fever vaccine. If you don't have this vaccine, you're probably not going to let you enter, at least for Honduras. I don't know for the rest of the countries, but if we want to go to Panama, they do ask for this vaccine.
Alberto, maybe you can just confirm if.
Yeah, there are some Panama does require for some countries to provide with yellow fever vaccines. Some countries from Central America, like Ricardo mentioned, not for all. With regards to COVID, which I know that also Ricardo and Andres were mentioning earlier, if you come to Panama, you do need to either bring a negative COVID test of at least 48 hours, or you need to show a proof that you have received both vaccines, and that the first vaccine was shot, you know, at least 6 months in advance. If you don't bring any of those, they will probably send you to an hotel for a few days. It's not a good experience. So, you know, if you're coming to Panama, my advice is to either take a test or talk to the travel agent or the airline in order that you make sure that you are complying with all of the requirements.
Perfect. And we have one last question from the audience, which is there a maximum of foreign employees that a local company may hire in each of your countries? I'll give the word to Andres.
Thank you, Mariana. Actually, yes, for both El Salvador and Nicaragua, there are some restrictions. It's not related to the number of employees, but to percentages. It is allowed for only 10% of the employees of a company to be foreigners. This is for both El Salvador and Nicaragua, right? In El Salvador, I think there's also a further regulation with regards to the salaries. the payroll or the salaries that amount to the total payroll of the company should be 15% of that amount should be for foreigners, for the foreign employees, and the remaining 85% should be to El Salvadoran employees. I don't know if I made myself clear with this, with the last part, with the salaries. Let me know, Mariana.
It was very clear. It was very clear. Ricardo?
Yes, in regards of Honduras and Guatemala, it's basically the same as Andres stated. For Honduras, it's 10% maximum employees, and for Guatemala, it's 15% maximum employees that can be foreigners. In Honduras, it's a special procedure because you need to have a special work visa, and so the state can validate this work visa. They make a supervision to the company and see if the amount of workers comply with the law, and you need to produce all this information and open your books to see if the amount is the correct one, and if not, they will deny this visa and the employee cannot work in Honduras legally.
Just to add to that it works very similarly to Nicaragua, that part that Ricardo mentioned.
Thanks to both of you. And Alberto, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So Costa Rica has no restriction or limitation. So it's very open on that regard. Panama, on the other hand, is similar to what Ricardo and Andres just mentioned. We do have a ratio of 10%. So only 1 out of 10 employees can be a foreigner, unless the company is located in a special zone or it has been granted any additional immigration or labor benefits, which will allow for extra employees, extra foreign employees to work in that company. So for example, multinationals, the City of Knowledge, they do offer some extra benefit that will increase the amount of foreigners that can work in that company.
Mariana, I just wanted to add something with the COVID vaccine. Now that the third or the booster has been authorized, Honduras hasn't stated anything that foreigners need to come with a booster. So we're still waiting for this information from the state. So if you want to come, 2 vaccinations is a full vaccine, and that's officially the information until now.
That's amazing information, and that's something that people must take into consideration when deciding to travel into the region in case that has changed. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. But before leaving, I want to thank our panel of speakers, Andres, Ricardo, Alberto. It was a pleasure having you here. Thank you for all the valuable information you provided.